For decades now, the cousin sport to running, cycling, has understood the power of power. It's the ultimate objective metric in a lot of areas of our lives, including endurance sports, training, and racing. But how does power in running actually work? I mean, we have heart rate, pace, and the extremely accurate rate of perceived exertion, or, rate of effort, RPE. But how can you use running power to train and race smarter? That's the question. Find out the question to that answer and more on this episode of Trees and D Lake. What you will learn: an in-depth explanation of the 8 reasons why you need run power. So we'll start with 1, improve your running economy. 2, overtraining. 3, know when you stop improving. 4, boost your training specificity. 5, helps you get your power to weight ratio correct. You can understand that. 6, really understand pace per watts. 7, pace perfectly. And 8, scientifically choose the fastest shoe for you and your race, which is pretty cool. So find out more about that, and let's get right into the episode. How would you sum up someone using run power and getting into run power?
I think it's beyond 90% of people listening and out there. When I talk to them, they have no idea what they're doing with heart rate. They don't know what the maximum heart rate is. They don't know what the minimum heart rate is. They don't know the threshold. And I think a lot of people will get into power just because it's another metric that's interesting. If you're geeky and you like that and it excites you, get into it. I think it has a useful place in the lab. If you can get a treadmill, it's very useful to test shoes, for example, test your running efficiency, change your stride. And for me, that's fascinating. Measure the wattage output and see how efficient you are at different ways of running. But running, actually out training, I'd rather run to feel. Feel think that I'm happier with just getting out there and learning to run to feel. And I think most people would still be much better just learning how their body functions at different paces. Power really does help you become efficient on the bike, but I don't think it's there yet. I'm happier running to feel than I am to power. I can feel much better. And because it's an algorithm, I still don't think it's 100% accurate. And there's nothing much I can do to change it. I'm running along at a certain pace. I don't feel that pace feels nice. I'm not going to slow down because the number on there is different. With running, I wouldn't slow down because my heart rate was 5 beats too high.
So how should I get started? How can I get started? Buy the power meter first.
Short of actually going to a lab and doing lab testing, which run the track and do an FTP test like you would do with the standard. I would say an FTP test would be better doing on a treadmill than it's constant.
Sorry, FTP is functional threshold power.
Threshold power. Technically, the equivalent of your lactic threshold. So that you want to know whether you're working aerobically or anaerobically is a simple way of putting it. And if your functional threshold power, for example, comes out at 240, then running up to 240 watts means you're running aerobically, and over 240 watts means you're running anaerobically. It's like it's snowing. When it snows really heavily, it builds up, and when it snows lighter, it melts, and that's pretty much the threshold. It's not a pinpoint, it's a zone, really, building up lactic and reabsorbing it out of the body. When you're cycling, you're on the bike, you look down at the speedometer or the power meter right in front of you. It's a nice big figure and it's not shaking around. When you're running, I'm trying to focus on my running, and every time I have to look at the watch to see what my power number is, I'm upsetting my running action. I'm not running naturally anymore. Also, on the bike, you have inertia. The wheels are moving and the bike is moving, whereas you don't have wheels when you're running. You have time you hit the ground, you're creating that force and you're going. There isn't the same change in power as easily as quickly as you have in cycling. So that number is more important. And also it's harder to see the watch when you're running. So there's still lots of little things to overcome in running that are stopping power from becoming a popular tool in the running world.
Once the heads-up display, glasses, which I thought Google Glasses were going to do that. There's another company, I think it's called Raptor. They have the heads-up display for cycling, which is just a bit too expensive.
If I want to pick the best pair of shoes for me, and people say, oh, it's the Alphafly, it's the Vaporfly, no, it's the new Metaspeed from Asics, I'm just going to get on a treadmill, fix a few metrics. I'm going to say I'm going to put it 1%, and I'm going to pick the speed at my 10K race speed, and I'm going to run 5 kilometers. I'm going to measure what the number is. At the end of that, we'll say the number comes out at 250 watt average for the 5K. I'm going to then take my Asics Metaspeed shoes off, and I'm going to put my Vaporfly shoes on, and I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Now, if if I do that same test and my power meter with the Vaporfly measured 240 watts, means I've now saved 10 watts. So that obviously means I'm more efficient. The lower the number, the more efficient you are. You can actually monitor what shoe is the most efficient to run it.